Okay, hello everyone. I think we're live. Can never quite be sure. Give me a shout in the chat. Say hello if you are. Today I am working on my gun mode course about hands and going to draw for a couple of hours. Just try and get into it really. I'm not going to use reference too much because I'm just coming up with ideas really. And I'll mute the live stream. Yeah, coming up with ideas and yeah, I'm basically just kind of experimenting and playing around a little bit with what I want to teach within the time limit. So yeah, we'll get into it, and I'll try and do questions. I'll just start with saying hello to everyone. Yeah, nice to see you all, and cool to have some people waiting to see it start as well. Nice. So anyway, I'll start drawing, and I'll do the questions as they come up. Good luck, everyone, and I hope you're doing some drawing at the same time as well. Actually, just going to pop a bit of music on as well. Decent. Big question of the day: what does the Tom Fox flow state playlist look like for maximum productivity? What kind of songs and music? I think for the best flow is no music at all. Um, I think you get into a flow with music, but I think actually for learning and for getting work done, it's actually often better to not be in the flow and to be a little thinking a little bit more consciously. Um, so yeah, I was going to put music on, but in the end, I just changed my mind. Just doing some kind of warm up stuff here, just to try and get into the drawing flow a little bit. Not flow, but mindset. I'm having one of those days. I don't know if you guys like go to the gym or do weights or anything like that, but yeah, whenever I've done like upper body day or chest or arms, I struggle to draw so much just because I'm shaking a little bit. Probably wasn't the smartest thing to do that just before a stream, but whatever. Willio Art, he's back. Yeah, I'm on like I think 8 or 9 now streams. Got quite a good streak going on. Can you guys hear those birds outside? Love that sound. Choopy Fuji. Hi there. Really enjoying watching this live. I just received your anatomy book for my birthday. It's helping me a lot. That's fantastic. Thank you for this. Yeah, no, thanks for your comment. Appreciate that. That's yeah, it's always nice to hear. I know the struggle, right? What it's like learning to draw. It takes such a long time. It feels so slow sometimes. It's just great to get any resource at all that helps. Six eyes, amazing. Same to you. Thank you very much. It's really kind of you. Just going to have a look through. I've got like a whole folder of drawings here for this course. Have a little flick through and just see. I've got a load of it arranged in the timeline in edit software, DaVinci. But sometimes I like to just sit and just spend a couple of hours just like kind of thinking about it and having a look through the notes and not looking at any references because I think when you use references, it's a temptation is just to copy, and it's great. You don't really come up with your own ideas unless you're presented with like essentially boredom, where you don't know what to draw next, and you start to come up with it yourself. So yeah, no references at the moment. No, I did just draw my own hand, but yeah, no. It's more about ideas at this stage. Like, what further ideas can I add to the course I've already included to make it better? Do you think you have your best ideas when you're not really um, using reference, when you're just sort of playing around a little bit? So, like in the making of this course, for example, like anything else I've done in the past, I just draw loads. I just draw loads of. Anytime I have an idea, I'll do it on an A4 piece of paper and I'll put it away. I've got a filing cabinet and storage around for it, and then I'll get it out and look at it again a bit later. And very often, the ideas that are best are just ones that you've come up with just from number of variations that you've done. At least that's how I work. Um, and probably I won't use, maybe I'll probably throw away, or not throw away, but I won't use three-quarters of those. Soul Sky. Yeah, exactly. Don't. I mean, drawing what you see is good, but drawing what you have seen is, I think, more helpful. Yeah, nice. So, YouTube was saying to me, you should do a poll. No, I'm good. Um, yeah, I think basically letting yourself get into a state where you are not bored. Bored's not quite the right word, but where you don't have resources, you're not taking in information, is a great way to come up with new stuff. Hey, Alex, nice to see you. Um, Robin Jean, Real Stuff, your book should be the new anatomy Bible. Thank you, mate. Is there another one in the works? Yeah, I've got the two clothing books that are coming out in like the 19th of February, or they're out already on from the publisher's website. And then I'm working on a perspective book right now, which will be submitted April. So basically in a year's time, and then it will come out probably 6 months after that, so about 18 months. And then all the stuff that I'm doing at the moment that I'm making into courses, I'm going to self-publish, I think. That's my plan at the moment, is self-publish like a big hardback book of like all the breakdowns. So yeah, that's my current plan. That'll probably be a couple of years. But I think self-publishing a book would be quite cool just to try it. And that'll just be a mixture of everything, right? It'll be like a sketchbook compilation, but it will be like semi-instructional. So it won't have any words in it, but it will sort of explain the ideas by working linearly, starting off with a flat shape and then adding a bit of volume, adding a bit of volume, subtracting things, and then you end up with whatever the result is, like a plane or a tank or some anatomy or whatever. I think it's a really cool way to teach because you can understand it in any language, and it also forces you to think really clearly when like to teach it, like what would be the most important information. Right, I'm gonna have another look at what else I can do. Excuse all the rustling. Some of it is just that I want a few more examples for the points I'm making. So I'll just do that. Robin Jean, I noticed most pros start drawing from the head. Why is that? And is it something you need to do 24/7? What do you mean by need to do it 24/7? Um, you don't need to do anything 24/7. Starting from the head, it doesn't really matter where you start, but most people, I think, I can't really speak for other people, but I think they're trying to scale their figure properly. And if you know that the head is going to be, say, between a sixth and an eighth of the height, then you can sort of measure out a unit and then just repeat that down. It's easy to project it. I'll just do a very, very quick drawing. So, like, you got this piece of paper. You know, you want to draw a figure here. If I go, okay, they're going to touch the floor there. That's where they're going to be standing. There's a foot. There's a foot. I can go, okay, then I want them this high. I divide them into 4, divide them into 2, divide them into 1. If you do the head like that, they're going to be 8 heads high. Almost no one is 8 heads high because that's just like a sort of Greek uh, fantasy. Um, but yeah, that's how you do it. And then you just draw down from there, right? And you use those measurements. I think it's just an easily quantifiable unit for most artists. So I hope that answers that question. God cool. Yeah, I don't really do like requests of what to draw on the live stream because I'm just kind of doing my own thing. Sometimes I do little explanatory drawings like that, but yeah, otherwise I would just be doing essentially lessons all the time about random things. It's more of a kind of draw along type thing. Tagnen, how often do you go live? At the moment, about once a week. I mean, I'm really enjoying that. I might make it a bit more at some point, but it's just time, isn't it? Like, you've only got a certain amount of time in the day and the week, and I like really preciously protect that time. I time block it all out, and I can be flexible about it. But doing a 2 hour live stream plus half-hour setup before maybe afterwards is like quite a big cost to me, and I know roughly what my hourly rate is for like across all my projects because I've got the stats right. I work backwards from what I've been paid, and yeah, I'm not sure I'll do more than that per week at the moment, just because for me it's an opportunity just to like answer people's questions, maybe help people out a little bit, answering some of their problems, but also just do something live, talking to people where involving drawing. I think it's helpful for others, so I like doing that. Um, But yeah, the cost is quite a lot. There's a reason most people don't stream too often if they're professionals, I think. But I have been really enjoying them so far. Partly because a lot of the questions have been really good. I think it really helps when when people ask a good question. It massively improves the quality of the stream. God, cool. Yeah, no worries, mate. No, you're not bothering me at all. The brows are really hard. They are really hard because of the way that they're turning in so many different directions. So, like, stay strong, basically. You just got to keep practicing them. Let me just read it back. Tangen, yeah. There's something about the way you draw that reminded me of how my grandfather used to draw. Really? That's cool. That's really cool. I wonder what that is. Can you like, do you know exactly what it is, or do you mean like the actual lines I use? I think drawing can be like super nostalgic, and particularly for people who, if you grew up before the internet. I know so many people who are like, I used to draw all the time, and now I never draw because I've got Netflix. So I feel your pain, Gokul. The pelvis is so hard. It's just so difficult. Or there's nothing to really attach to, is there? So like most forms, you've got something like this, where you've got like two anchor points. If you draw a cube, you've obviously got these two, a cuboid form. You've got these two, and you can reference everything off that. You know that that's going up and that that's going back, and then it's quite easy because you just need to keep those in mind. But with the pelvis, when you start off, which points are you going to reference? I think the tips of the iliac crest is the obvious one, which is great. But yeah, they don't form a neat plane like that, do they? Because they start off with a tip and they go in and out and down and around and all that. It's yeah, it's challenging. So yeah, stay strong. Trying to find that reference plane is really important for drawing anything, visualizing anything. Can I ask you guys what I know it's a bit of a big question, but what do you reckon is going on with algorithms on like Instagram, X, in terms of how it's affecting artists? Because obviously, I hear people all the time talking about how they don't get as many views and likes and things. Do you think that's a trend that's going to continue? I'm assuming that it will, and that it will just get harder for people drawing to get seen. That's not necessarily a problem, but it's just something that feels like it's just going to be an ongoing thing. I really mentioned that just because I've only just started on YouTube, and I'm really enjoying it, and I just think YouTube is so much better in so many ways. I'm curious to see the direction that things will go. Will artists kind of leave those social platforms, because I think they can be really kind of toxic for your learning, or at least they can affect it. Not toxic is a bit dramatic, but I think they can really affect your learning in a negative way. All these pages are in sequence, and I'm almost definitely, because I'm concentrating on the stream, going to end up doing them, mixing them all up, spending ages putting them back. One thing I do loads of actually when I'm doing this sort of drawing where I'm just I'm not trying to train drawing from imagination, but I'm just trying to come up with models basically and ideas for something. I actually do loads of erasing because as you sort of zone in on an idea or focus on it, the drawing just has to get that little bit more accurate. Saskia, it's an evil bone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tanyan, thank you so much, mate. Yeah. Well, it feels very wobbly and unconfident today, but whatever. It's just a drawing, isn't it? Pac-Man. Yeah, you got to figure it out yourself in the drawing. I can tell you, figuring it out myself is pretty frustrating, for sure. Do you know what? I think that is like the biggest challenge of being an artist or just being a person. Is just all the stuff you want to learn. You want to get it from someone else, but they just can't give it to you, and you need to figure it out. And trying to figure out how to enjoy the process of figuring it out is the hardest thing. It's a bit meta, isn't it? But like, if you could, the goal is to be that person who can be like, I'm going to sit here and just draw for 2, 3 hours. I've got no real goals, um, perhaps a project based goal, but I'm going to see what happens and see what ideas I come up with, and I'll enjoy it. That is like an amazing place to be. And I'm not saying I'm there, but I'm much closer to that than I was, previously. Just reading the comments. I think people focus too much on socials. It's good to post and leave it, just enjoy, but don't focus on it. Yeah, totally. Even that, I sometimes think I see so many people on X. I know X is an absolute dumpster fire, but people always say, "Oh, the algorithm screwed me." I'm never going to be a professional artist now because no one's seeing my stuff. I'm like, if you're saying that, you've kind of lost the point of why you're doing it. You hopefully are doing it because you love it and because the intrinsic feeling of getting better should be enough for you. And knowing that actually, if you have faith, every hour that you practice is compounding. It's just compounding and consistency. That's all drawing is. Eventually, you will be good if you stick with it. Um, Knowing that and remembering that and just forgetting about likes and comments is the key. But that's obviously very hard to do because of our human natures. I think it could be a real blessing for a lot of people to just stop using Instagram and Twitter for that reason. I believe another point, another social media will emerge to replace the current ones. Yeah, I think you're right. I do think money has to be involved, though. For me personally, I think people need to become more aware that um, if you want something of value, you've basically almost always got to pay for it in some way. It could just be your time, it could be effort, like in a relationship or community, but you need to put something in. And I think people's expectations are generally that they like won't contribute anything and that they will get something from someone else. I think that's just not that realistic. You can get stuff like watching a live stream is free, right? But I think people, yeah, a paid. What I'm trying to say is, I think some sort of paid form of social media would be better in some ways. G boy and after drawing so many boxes, I had this aha moment and realized contour lines are just angles in space. It's very true. It's very true. Media made a lot of people think going pro was just about drawing good pieces instead of realizing it's about hard work and consistency. That's also very true. You guys are very wise today. Uh, yeah, good point, Robin. Yeah, I think as soon as you go on social media, your mindset is just like, I need to produce something that people will see and that they'll like. And I think that in itself is like first step gone wrong. That's not that's not a learning mindset. Yeah, being consistent is super hard. Um, I got no tips on that, but I think for me, a schedule is like if I'm sticking to a schedule, I will get twice as much work done as when I just try and do an unstructured day's work, and not just work, but everything: diet, exercise, going to the gym, whatever. Guy from Beyond, I've been using a few ideas from your article about not forcing focus, and they've worked really well. Yeah, I mean it's not complicated, is it? It's so simple. Uh, just don't have ridiculously high expectations that have been set by other people, because no one starts drawing with those expectations. You always get them from other people, even if it's unconsciously or culturally. I'm glad to hear that's helping you, mate. That's really cool. It's a weird mix, isn't it? 'Cause it's a combination of like discipline to get yourself to sit down and to stay in the chair, but also like kindness to then once you're there, not beat yourself up about it and not judge your results. And that's so difficult to do. You need to be in a way like someone who's sort of in between, kind of like a hippie guru and also like a sort of Alex Hormozy type productivity bro, where you can do some of each. And that's really hard because most people's personalities, they don't do both. They have, most people tend to go one way and then it's struggle to do the other end of the spectrum. I find that really fascinating. To be like really effective, sometimes you have to be a real mix. Is Anatomy for Artists Volume 2 the same book as Anatomy for Artists Drawing Form and Pose? Good question. Uh, I assume so. I think when the publishers did the naming, they have in the contract, they choose the title and they do it optimized for SEO and all that stuff on Amazon. I don't get involved in all that. All I know is it's called something like Anatomy for Artists and it's got my name on it. And I just focus on that. Nomad Play FGC started following your advice about showing less, but sometimes I feel like it ruins the silhouette. How do you solve this? Um, I'm not quite sure what you mean. If you could just write it out a little bit more specifically, then I'll give it a good go at answering. Souls guy, look at all this work this man's doing. You were questioning stuff. What do you mean? Yeah, I do. I mean, I put in a lot of work into it, but I rack up the hours fast because I'm lucky. This is my job, and I am, like I said, like very like I got up at 6 this morning and I start drawing. Um, I look after the baby a little bit first, but then start drawing, and I like take advantage of my time. So there is a lot of time to draw, and drawing on paper is really fast. It's much faster than drawing digitally. I'm not saying it's faster to animate on paper, but just getting lots of drawings done is quick on paper. You know what? Um, just thinking back to I watched this guy's video on YouTube. He's called John Wayne. He's a producer and a rapper, and but basically he's got a channel called John Makes Beats, and he's got video called Why Artists Should Be on YouTube. I watched it like when it came out, I think last year, and he talks about how um, he talks about a few things, but the summary that I took away from it is essentially that, adding on my own ideas, that art people think because we still thinking like the 90s and the early 2000s that when you go on social media, you're getting something quite good, right? Because you're getting free exposure, but transferring that exposure into an income is really challenging because those apps aren't there to promote your work. They're there to or to show your work. They're just there to make money. And I think a lot of people go on social media, particularly now, with the assumption of like, oh, if I get a big following, then I'll make loads of money, and that is like one of the factors that can help you make more money. But actually, when you leave your job and to try and become like a social media type person making money from those followers, they are now your employer in lots of ways, and they're actually a lot more in control of you than your original employer was. So I think it's something quite risky about doing that. I wouldn't give people advice about to do or not to do, but I just find that idea quite interesting. That they, in some ways they sort of own you a little bit. I'll probably do a Substack post on that at some point because I think it's quite an interesting idea. Gaburu, good morning, mate. Good morning. Someone please give me a shout to say remember to keep the pages in order because they're going to go everywhere in a minute. In this course that I'm doing here, there's like a system of progression where you generally start off with like a really flat hand. I've actually got an example of one here. You start out with something like this, right, which is literally putting your hand on the piece of paper and then drawing around it, and then we build it up from there, right? And the point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to jump around a little bit in my head at the moment because I shouldn't be drawing more details or features than we've already covered up to that point. So just trying to keep that in mind. I'm struggling. Hopefully it will make sense. I'll show it on camera and then talk it through and everything. It'll be fine. G Crammon, good day. The drawing is below the bottom edge. Thank you. I've moved it now. Robin Jean, thanks for the motivation. Gonna go work and study. Good shout. Good man. Here's hoping to you get your flowers like Kim Jin Gi. Okay. Not sure what that means, but thank you, mate. I hope you have a good one. Question for animation: what skills should one prioritize? I always assumed it was just perspective and figure drawing. Is that it, or is there another element to it a beginner should know? Um, Best thing to do is to not ask other people what. This isn't meant as a criticism to that question. It's a good question, but my answer is just that I'm doing the classic Tom Fox thing of like flip it round a bit because that's just how my brain works. Instead of asking other people what skills should I learn to do X or Y, instead just do X or Y, in this case animation, and see what you're struggling with and then do exactly that, because then you're training for exactly the skill that you're trying to learn. So for example, it's like me saying to someone, uh, I want to be a biochemist. I've got an exam coming up. What biochemistry should I learn? I don't know because I don't know what modules you're doing. I don't know what your specialization is, etc. But if you've got access to, say, the past papers, then just do the past papers because then that is the most specific form of the thing that you're going to need to know how to do. And trying to identify what is the most specific thing that will give you feedback is the fastest way generally to learn. So yeah, in this case, if you want to learn animation, think about what type of animation you want to learn, and then just do exactly that. Try doing some of that animation, and then you'll see immediately. Okay, for example, I need this software. Download the software. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to do in betweens. How do I do that in this software? Go and look it up, and then I do it, and then you're just tackling it step by step in a practical way, rather than watching hours of videos about how to do animation. Tagnan, good chatting you, mate. Thank you. John is a gem. GK Ramen, exactly, mate. He's amazing. It's on his second channel, John Talks Beats. You're right. Thank you for correcting. I subscribed to them both, and I'm actually on his Patreon as well. It's just, he's really good. He's just a really good YouTuber. He's really calm, and he's got so much wisdom on those channels that I think the reason I subscribe to his Patreon is because a lot of that information does transfer to drawing and just learning and having a craft generally. So I really recommend his channel. Tom Fox's patent paper mannequin. That's Oscar. Yeah, exactly. Will let me forget it. You offer more in-depth class on drawing the mannequin? Not at the moment. I will be doing some live classes at some point, but at the moment, it's just not a very good use of my time in terms of like the return I get on it. I will be doing it in the future at 2027, 2028 because it's on my schedule. Because by then I'll have made more courses, I'll have done more books, and I like doing live teaching. I think it's cool talking to people and hearing what they want to do and learn. Um, but yeah, at the moment it's not a good return basically, and I've got family and stuff to support. So we got this. What's it? Paper adjusting today. Do you use ink or pencil more? Pencil more. Just sometimes using. I don't really care which one, but for this, I'm making a course. I want to be able to correct things as I go and change things. I just think pencil is just an amazing medium, and I don't really ascribe to the idea of you should use pen because it will make you commit to your decisions. Like I'm pretty committed to my decision anyway, and I draw slowly already, so to me it doesn't really matter. Just got back. Decent. Do you have a tentative date for the Gumroad course release? Yeah, yeah. It's on my. I've got like a little Gantt chart. It's was it 6th today? It's in about 10 days. And it's not going to be expensive. I think like $9, $8. Like I'm trying to make more cheaper stuff to make it a bit more accessible. No worries, isn't it? Yeah. So basically, draw a Doritos packet to draw the hand. Yeah, pretty much. Or just to draw anything. You can draw anything as a Doritos packet. What I think is so cool about doing art and drawing is that it's like a vehicle for you to work on your own stuff outside of art. So, like for me, for years, I didn't do live streams or YouTube, for example, because I was just basically too nervous about going on camera and drawing live in front of people and all that. And then, yeah, I don't know what it was, but maybe got a bit more confidence in the last few years, and I've just realized like, who cares? It's just a drawing, and I preach that. I need to actually live that, and it's cool to be doing it. And people respond well if you just give it a go. My point is that art is really cool because it's a great career to do that because there's loads of opportunities for you to push yourself, public speaking or whatever, teaching, um, especially these days. Last time you also mentioned it's important to learn exactly what you need and not waste time. But I don't you think it kind of limits you to restrain yourself? Um, Depends what you're trying to achieve, right? Like all my advice, you probably noticed the theme is I want to try and get the person who's asking the question to the place that they're describing as soon as possible because I'm assuming that they need to be there because they want to do it as a living. Maybe they're a young person, maybe they're retired, whatever. But I'm assuming that they need to be there because I have come from that place of I'm a young person. I need to get a job. Hopefully, it's a job in art. So how do I get there quickly? I think you're only restraining yourself by learning loads of different things. If you're talking in a general sense of like being a person, like it's cool to learn a language and an instrument and all that. But if you're like 15 and or not 15, say you're 21, you need to pay your rent. If you spend half your time learning the violin as well as drawing, it will take you twice as long or more to become a professional artist. And so you might be increasing the amount of stress that you feel and all that. So when I say learn the exact skills, I'm talking about that's the fastest way to do it. Hey Samuel, I'll do some more questions in one sec. Let me just do a little bit of a mental review. Okay, Dorian Alston. I can't really answer that sort of question on here just because it's like a visual question, right? I would need you to show me what you mean, and it's just on the live stream format. It's just not very good. Um, but yeah, you have to get yourself a 3D model. Go on Sketchfab or wherever on the internet, and just look up 3D model, and you will see the angle for yourself, and you'll learn it much better you seeing it and realizing than me telling you. That's called I think it's called the generation effect, where you'll basically remember anything that you have to generate much better than if someone tells you it to try and describe it. Yeah, Dorian, same again. Morokai, thank you, mate. How are you able to get good proportions with silhouette drawing? I usually get them incorrect compared to if I just draw the parts as primitive forms. Yeah, it will be more accurate probably if you draw them as primitives first. No problem with that. For me, it's that I can sort of slightly see the primitives. I'm not drawing them, but I can kind of visualize them first. So, like as I'm drawing these fingers, I'm sort of able to visualize that as I go, as a series of cylinders. As I'm drawing it, they're kind of coming out onto the page. So it's almost like I'm drawing over them, and that's just practice, really. And they would be much more accurate if I just did the primitives. +40 watching right now, no pressure, Souls guy. I love your contribution to this live stream every time. Yeah, I don't feel the pressure. Honestly, like it's not a big deal. It could be 40, it could be 400. I don't think it would make a difference to me. I'll call that done for a minute. I'll just change page. But I like you trying to put the pressure on me. That's cool. You know what? If I could give you guys one tip for drawing, um, do 3D arrows. They are so good for training your ability to visualize because they're quite simple, but also they're hard to draw. And you can draw them like really 3D and really convincingly if you really focus. So yeah, very much recommend that when you're drawing like explanatory stuff, add in some arrows to show the movements, and it will help a lot. Same for storyboarding. Like I never really did that on my boards. And I really wish that I had because it instead of 3 frames, you can just draw one and a good arrow. And if the arrow is super clear, you don't actually need the other frames. Uh, Someone asked me a question back then. Decine, sorry about that. Do you have a tentative date for the Gumroad? Yes, answered that. I'm sure you answered this, but is this course on Gumroad going? What's it going to be about? It's going to be about hands, just hand anatomy, basically. For people who bought my book, um, I really enjoyed that book. I'm super proud of it, but I would like to do each area much more in depth and explain more levels of detail because some of the areas, in I have a page limit from the publishers of 280 pages. If I had my way, it would be 1,000 pages, and I would make no money at all because it would be so expensive to produce. But in 280 pages, you can only convey so much information. Which is like I don't know how many pages I've got here, maybe 60, and these are just drawings of hands. So these courses are going to be like a series of very cheap, short courses, um, explaining like how do you get from a paper cutout of your hand to drawing a hand that's more realistic in a sequence of steps that people can actually follow and practice. What do you think is harder, drawing heads or the upper torso? It's all the same. Like, I genuinely mean that. Everything is the same. It's the same challenge to draw a cube as it is to draw a horse, let's say. It's just that one has a higher level of detail, so it's harder to do it from memory. It's all just moving things around in space and foreshortening and adjusting for perspective. Like some of the hardest things to draw are really simple things, like a plate. If you just draw a circle, an ellipse is a really hard thing to draw accurately anyway, even just one ellipse. And then a plate has got all these sort of layers where you have multiple ellipses interacting, and then it's foreshortened in perspective. Things like that. So what I'm saying is that everything is, um, I treat everything like it's like a really valuable thing to draw, and that you should really take your time, which is why I draw slowly, because it's all the same method of calculation, just applied to different things. I'm drawing some models of hands. Telepathic. I think you're brilliant. Thank you. That's really kind of you. I appreciate that. Very hard to be sincere if you're English, but that's really kind of you to say so. And I guess you've got the anatomy book. Souls guy, thank you. I Yeah, I do need to. I didn't know you did storyboarding. Yeah. Other than the drawing side of it, what are the things someone should study to start getting into it? Um, yeah, same answer again. I know that basically teaching is just repeat and answering questions is just repeating yourself endlessly. It's really good because it crystallizes it in your head. Um, I did a storyboard class with Alan Wan in Los Angeles, and he's just such a good teacher and like a really nice guy. And he said, he said, I've been teaching storyboarding for years. You'd be amazed at the hundreds of people who've come to my storyboarding classes who've never tried to do a storyboard. And that like really hit home for me because I think at the time I was one of those people who I'd done lots of story, even professionally done storyboarding, but I hadn't really given it a good go for myself. Uh, it's the same as learning any skill. You just do that actual skill. So the best way to learn to storyboard is not to learn about storyboarding, but it's just to do storyboarding. So give yourself 2 hours on a timer and draw out 10 panels and just say, I'm going to fill those 10 panels. Each one's going to be, is the maths, 12 minutes and 12 minutes each one. Then just do it and then just see what the result is at the end. You'll learn more from doing it and applying it directly than you ever will from watching courses about storyboarding. I I'm going to just slightly put myself on the spot here, but the internet these days to me feels like it's full of people either teaching courses because they're experts. I'm including myself in that, um, although I would never call myself an expert. Um, but people teaching courses telling you like the way to do things, or people being like, um, if I were to start again, I would do it like this. The fact is, they wouldn't because you don't have that knowledge when you start again, and it's only ever really you that teaches you anything. Like, you can absorb a bit of information from other people, but I think almost everything that people do that makes them actually improve is the process of you trying to struggle and figure things out. I think all the kind of culture of like I'll just do loads of courses is I think quite unhelpful for people's learning. I'm not a big formal education uh, supporter. I think universities are great. I'm not saying anything like that, and schools are fantastic. But I think most of the things that you learn by doing things and failing at them and struggling with them, and the struggling is where you learn. That's just how I've always felt, and I think it's true. Actually, I say all that, but to be totally clear, I think the right person with the right student who has the right mindset can learn a massive amount from good instruction. I'm not saying that people can't teach you anything. I'm just saying that it's the mindset you approach that teaching and that learning. And I think of formal courses and the mindset that when you sit down, you are ready for someone to deliver knowledge to you. And I think that in itself is an unhelpful mindset. Disane, were you ever big on perspective grids? Yeah, perspective grids are a really good way to think about form and learn perspective. And uh, I think the only negative of a perspective grid is that people will do something that isn't very in perspective, and then they'll just throw a grid in the background to try and make it look like it is. And often, the more I've come to understand perspective, the more I see those grids and think that's actually wrong, which is fine. But I'll just draw you a drawing. Um, if you draw a person like this, yeah, and then you draw a grid like this, there's a relationship between these two separate objects, and that's confusing for the viewer because then they're not quite sure which one, like for example, which one has priority, A or B, in this scene. When you look at that scene, you think, okay, am I looking down at this guy, or is my eye level like here and he's on an angle slope towards me? And if they don't agree, then the problems can come around. So my point, the connection to perspective grids is grids are amazing, but I do think people use them as um, supporting tools, but sometimes the support actually detracts from the image, and you have to be a bit careful about that. But yeah, if you drawn it, this, something like that, then A and B, they're agreeing and they're supporting each other, and that's reinforcing that sense of perspective. I just love drawing. I think it's amazing to me that you can get a sense of 3D space just from looking at something as simple as that. That's really cool. So personally, I Frankenstein my art knowledge like a witch brewing a cauldron. That's the way to do it. Yeah, I think we all do that. Really, it's just that we feel like sometimes we're a bit more methodical. Do you think memorized human bone 3D shapes good for anatomy accuracy? Uh, yeah, it can be. Can be. Depends really. If you're just memorizing the bones and you're not really thinking about how that's going to be helpful for you drawing a figure, then it's not that helpful. The good thing about learning bones is that you are learning to rotate forms in perspective in 3D. So one sec. I'll just turn the mic up a little bit and actually talk into it a little bit. Yeah, the good thing about doing the bones, like these bones, for example, is that you are learning to rotate things in 3D, like these here. That's really good. That's going to benefit everything that you draw, so it never hurts. But it probably doing this sort of thing probably doesn't um, actually help you draw figures directly. Everything has an indirect and a direct benefit, basically, and cost. So yeah, if you're learning to draw figures and anatomy, probably better to draw full figures than it is to focus on specifics all the time. Struggling is the neurons in the brain reaching out, trying to connect, basically. Yeah. Uh, I've recently discovered a pretty no nonsense YouTuber that teaches perspective without all the fluff. That's cool. Who's that? Is that I could do with checking him out or them out, and I might learn a thing or two. How much fluff exists in art education? Oh God, yeah. Like the direction I want to take my YouTube in actually is I'm making these courses, but I'm also going to make some short videos on YouTube. I'm just going to make everything like 4 or 5 minutes long because I've recently been thinking about that a lot, doing loads of research about it. Most YouTube videos that are like 15 minutes could just be 3. So I'm going to go in with that mindset. And personally, I would rather watch 3 4-minute videos than one 15-minute one because I'll know soon if it's something I actually want to watch. No fear, mistake approach. Yeah, there's no point having any fear for it. You can just erase it or just throw it in the bin, whatever. This paper, I use Amazon. I'm not sponsored, but I wish I were. I use Amazon printer paper. It's like, I think it's $10 for like 500 sheets. And I use a lot. Like I easily do 1,000 sheets in a year. But yeah, it's so cheap. It's like 5p or something, 5 cents a sheet. Don't check my maths. Uh, so yeah, a bit pencils cheap, erasers cheap, everything's cheap. So there is no cost to this other than my time, and that's the only thing that I'm like protective about. And actually, I view the mistakes as part of the learning process. So every time I make a mistake, I think that in a way that's good because I've just noticed something's wrong. So I must be learning. And if other people are watching me do it and they might also learn from that, which is good. Uh, Russian guy, he has a ton of videos. Gene Bond, okay. Write down that writing. Amazing. I can't even read it. Thank you for mentioning that. I really appreciate that. I'll check him out. "56 people watching. Wow, amazing. That's cool. I think that's maybe my highest yet, so I'm well happy with that. Thank you for joining me. What really amazes me about drawing is that you you know so much more than you think you do, but you just need to give it time to come out. Like once you start doing these drawings and just sitting down, you can recall way more than you think you can. It's just that you need to leave it quite a long time for your brain to really retrieve it. I'm like obviously fascinated by memory, and I just think it's really underutilized. So, like a great drawing example, drawing exercise would be, for example, if you want to learn perspective. I think actually this was one of the assignments on my figure drawing for imagination course. If you want to learn perspective, I said to everyone, just go away. Don't look up any videos. Don't watch anything. Don't read anything about perspective. Just make a 5-minute presentation about how perspective is drawn and how perspective works. And it can be, the presentation will be 5 minutes, but it might take you 3 or 4 hours to make. And just sit and think about what you know and what you can remember about it. When you start writing it all out, it's amazing how much will sort of bubble up. And I guess I say that because I want to encourage people to sort of have faith in the amount that they already know. With Rufi, is this live? Yeah, I think it is. Why should we learn the inner workings of the skeletal system? Um, why should you learn the inner workings? Just to understand, right? To understand how things work. If you understand how something works, you will be able to remember the forms much more effectively because your brain will prioritize um, that knowledge more. Anything that is abstract to you, that is presented to your brain, uh, that doesn't seem especially relevant to your life, like for example, for many people, that would be algebra. The reason people can't learn it is because they're not interested, because their brains are telling them, I'm never going to use this, so who cares? It's the same for anatomy. When you learn the muscles of an arm, if you just draw a load of bumps, it doesn't really mean anything. But if you say, oh, okay, well, um, you say something like, this muscle here is going to turn this arm over. Then it gives it a function. And then if you know the function, it's just much easier to remember it. Or like, I think there's some drawings like that in my book. If you've got two forms like this, and you can say something like, okay, the muscle attaches here to here, and when it contracts, it will lift this up like that. it'll be much easier to remember that because it isn't just a load of lumps. So that is why it's worth learning the skeletal stuff, the deeper stuff. Can you showcase your mini gesture drawings? What, I don't know what a mini gesture drawing is. Your minute gesture drawings. Yeah, I don't quite know what that is, but if you can clarify, then I will. But I never do gesture drawings ever. I'm like, that's my only controversial art opinion. That I think gesture drawings are basically pointless. It's good to have one controversial opinion, so I can at least have some disagreements with someone. Daniel Ang, I'll check them out as well. Got the new book on order. Thank you so much. Mimesis Ape. Nice. Can't wait to put some clothes on these mannequins. Exactly, yeah. Rodrigo, you're very welcome for doing the streams. Um, I'm glad you learned a lot. That's really fantastic. That genuinely makes me feel really good. And yeah, keep drawing, keep practicing, keep growing. Do you keep these practice drawings or do you throw them out? Oh, these are going in my course on drawing hands, which is coming out in like 10 days. So I've essentially fleshed out the course already, and then I'm just adding some extra drawings to like bulk it out and help explain the points a little bit more. Yeah, so I will keep these. Yeah, I'll keep them in a folder. I keep everything in like filing cabinet folders with a label, and then I can reuse it later, or use it for teaching at some point. If someone asks me a question, I can say, "Oh, I actually got a folder about drawing motorbikes or tractors or whatever it is." I think it's really, if I could go back and start drawing again, I'm going to do exactly what I said I wouldn't do earlier on. If I could go back, I would just say to myself, when you draw, don't just pile up all your drawings and draw loads and loads of random stuff on each page. Let me show you this. This pile of drawings. Where's the camera? There it is. This pile of drawings is like, it's pretty hefty. There's probably like 300 pages of drawings there. I did them at the end of last year. It's all random stuff because I didn't sort them out. For whatever reason, I I didn't have enough of a method then, and I was actually just getting kind of back into a real good drawing phase, and I just churned them out. But they're essentially useless now because I can't really review them very well, and I can't really use them to teach people. I can always flick through them, and I could perhaps publish them, but try to categorize your drawings. So like this can go in an anatomy folder. Then you can look back on them, and you will recall that information so much better if you sort them out. Have a system. Don't be me. See, I have a system now. You draw a lot quicker than I expected to, really, and you're the first person to say that. Everyone always says to me that I draw surprisingly slowly, which I like. I actually, I don't think I draw that slowly, but I think some people draw really fast, and that expectation that you'll do something good if you do it really fast is sort of odd to me. I understand it, but I think it's perhaps not that helpful. So thanks for saying that and balancing things out. I might start doing some members live streams on here as well at some point. I've just sort of started the YouTube process of making memberships and things, but I just mentioned that because I might do that at some point and maybe do perhaps one or two a month going forward. But again, it's tentative at the moment. But I'm generally really enjoying having a YouTube channel, and like it's only been going 2 months and it's already been really interesting. It's mostly because you guys are actually, you ask, like I said before, you ask good questions, and that's interesting to me, the questions that you're asking. Last line. Thank you very much. What are your favorite things to draw? Artistic. Um, what are your favorite things to draw? Like I said before, actually, just anything. I love just drawing anything. Uh, it's all to me. It all feels the same to draw an animal, a car, a person, a building. It's all just 3D space, and it's like the manipulating of 3D space feels to me a little bit like almost magic that you can do that on a page, and that someone else who doesn't know what's going on in your head can look at that and think, "Oh yeah, I know what that is, and I know what angle they're imagining it from or drawing it from." In a way, I think it actually kind of is magic. I used to be quite into my trying to teach. I was just purely teaching technical stuff, and I didn't really show like how enthusiastic I was about it because I thought, oh, not everyone feels that way, and don't want to put pressure on people. But these days, I just think I might as well just say it because it is amazing to me, and I kind of want people to see that it's amazing to me because then they might appreciate it a bit more as well. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Yeah, that's nicely said. What's the best way to fully consume your new clothing book and workbook? Should I go to the book completely, then the workbook, or should I use them both simultaneously? That's a really good question, actually. Abacito. Yeah, that's a great question. I would go through. Okay, let me just break it down. I don't think it's that helpful to consume sources of information in one go, in one intense period. It can be if they're, you know, require quite a lot of thought, but my book doesn't require a lot of thought because it's drawing. It's mostly understandable and simple and fairly clear. It's more about putting it into effect and practice. And as a result, I think probably the book is best consumed. Um, say read like a few pages a day, and then use the workbook alongside it, and then go back and do a few more pages, and then do some more exercises in the workbook. Because then you're not bombarding yourself with all the adjustments that I suggest. There's like 30, 40 adjustments in there at least. Um, that's too many for anyone to integrate into their process quickly. So it's better to take your time and not be too frustrated by that. And yeah, exactly as you say, do the workbook as you go. Fearless, no worries. Zanatia. I feel the pressure with speed when I'm working because I feel I draw super slowly and I should draw faster to hit my deadlines. Then I draw so fast that drawing looks terrible and I feel terrible. It's like a little story. Um, yeah, I totally get that. And I think when I used to board, I used to storyboard, I drank a lot more caffeine then, and I used to just get stressed by someone asking me for a deadline of like 3 or 4 hours, and I would drink like two strong coffees, and I would work like crazy. And sometimes at the end of it, I would think, "This is terrible. This storyboard is not good because I've worked thoughtlessly and I haven't slowed down and focused on it, and it just doesn't look good. The outcome isn't good." I think with drawing, particularly the effort that you put in and the intensity that you bring is often actually very unhelpful. So yeah, calming down and going slower, you get more done per unit of time, and it's like a bit of productivity speak, but I think it's true. I mean, how many drawings have I done on this stream in an hour and 40 minutes? I've drawn like multiple pages already. Lots of small drawings on multiple pages, but I've drawn probably 2 or 3 A4 sheets in an hour and a half. And in a normal day, I'll draw like 10 pages. But you can see I'm not drawing them very quickly. Ari, can you tell me about why you don't do draw gesture drawings? I might be wasting my time. Okay, I can do, but first, you tell me why do you think it's important to do gesture drawings? Because that will partially answer your own question. Knew that was going to happen. My wife has just started using a circular saw outside. Just give me 1 sec. I'll close the window and I'll just mention it to her. Okay, back. I didn't ask her to stop, but I did close the window. Decent Nate, I've enjoyed watching your streams before everyone catches on that you're on YouTube. Hopefully, yeah, I would love it if there was like 1,000 people because it's such a nice feeling to know people are all struggling with the same things. A lot of pages are moving around. Tom. Okay, I'll try to keep them more still. You've told me off. I get it. Okay. Do you ever try to approximately compute the actual physical placement of specular highlights, or do you eyeball them? I never draw highlights. I never really do lighting. Um, it's just not my thing. I used to do it. I did loads of rendering when I was younger and sort of learning more different things. But it just doesn't really interest me. I'd rather do more drawings and draw the stuff I want to draw than spend the time rendering the things that I have drawn. But each to their own, isn't it? Uh, I wait for Ari's reply about drawing gestures. Gaff Gek, I don't understand your question, I'm afraid. Sorry, mate. Gesture supposedly captures energy. Lol. That's basically how I feel. I just think I think doing gesture drawings is great if your goal is to draw loads of arty looking gesture drawings. Um, what I don't think it's that helpful for people, I think people seem to think that if I draw loads of really flowing poses, then I'll get a better sense of what a flowing pose is. But your sense of what is a good pose is already in here. It's in your memory, and it has been since you were 5 years old. That's why you watch people dance and it's enjoyable, or you see, people doing athletics. Um, you don't actually need to train that. You already know. The difficulty is actually drawing people in those poses. And when people do gesture drawings, they always seem to be using reference. So all you're doing is the same as a still life. You're just going, I'm seeing that and I'm drawing this, which is fine. But then when you actually want to apply that to anything, how is it helping you? Because it isn't training your sense of 3D space. So someone asked me on X the other day, like, what do you think to my gesture drawings? And I was like, I mean, they look nice. That is what gesture drawings are for. But what are you getting out of it? What that time is, I don't like the expression time is money, but time is valuable, and spending loads of time doing something that isn't improving you a lot. I don't personally want to do that. I'd rather hang out with my wife or my friends or do some gardening or whatever. I know I'm not going to go on a gesture rant, but I just don't. I think it's one of those things that is art school theory, and I personally think it's mostly nonsense. And I've met a lot of people, over the years who are really um like good in the art world, like fine art world. They're like, oh, I went to this amazing illustration school in London or in wherever in the country and in France, And now look at my beautiful gesture drawings. And I'm like, that's great. If your job is to make gesture drawings, but my job is to do storyboards or comics or teach or whatever. And the only thing I think you can really teach with gesture drawings is gesture drawings. I think it's like an academic circular practice where it trains people to teach it. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy it, that's fantastic. So I'm definitely not criticizing anyone for doing them. But for me, it's a no. Yeah, Ari, I do them to familiarize myself quicker with human gestures. I just don't think you need to. I think you probably know them. If I was talking to you and I was standing like this with my arm like that, you don't need to have done gesture drawing to know that that is weird. It's all in your memory, your information about what is a natural pose. I'll just read a couple of chats, then I'll do a bit more drawing. Nomad play FGC. I only do it because others say it's a good thing to practice. I'm like I'm way out there, right? You know, my views on learning things are quite different to most people's, but just because other people say it's good, I don't think it's a good reason. Personally, I think people learn best when they do things that they understand why they're doing them, and if the reason is just someone told me to, then I think the learning probably won't be that good. Uh, Called to be Wild, bought your anatomy book, great. Been going through it. I've been drawing the illustrations. Yeah, draw them from memory. Don't just copy them out. Look at the book, go away, try and draw them again from memory. It will feel really frustrating. Then go back and look at the book. Decent there, you're a victim. Yeah, viral video, gesture is fundamental. Uh, I knew that I knew that this was going to cause a thing, but um, the gesture rant. I could rant about gesture for like 3 days straight. I can't even be bothered these days. I used to have the energy to do that, but everyone do whatever you want. But one thing I do think is important, as Decent has said, just assume that no one really knows what they're talking about. I think when you're 18 or 15 or whatever, you assume, hey, that old bold dude on the internet seems like he's good and he must know what he's talking about. Don't take my word for anything. You have to figure it out for yourself. I'm like, I'm a huge believer in that. And yeah, if what I'm saying seems to make sense to you from your own personal experience, then maybe explore it. But definitely don't do anything just because I say it's good. And I sometimes think most of the people who traditionally would have been working in industries are now teaching things online. And they might not have been that amazing in their industry. It might just be that for whatever reason they've ended up teaching. I can think of several people who are teaching, and I think you can't even do it in the first place particularly well. But fair play for them for making it work and having a career. I think that's actually like in its own way quite impressive. Telepathic, nice one. Thanks very much. Really appreciate that. See you in the next one. Nomad play FGC. I'm 100% convinced you're right. Fantastic. Okay, don't do any more gestures. Gesture drawer is seething right now. Yeah, exactly. I've basically just annoyed like almost every artist on YouTube. Right, let me focus a little bit and then I'll just do like 15 more minutes, then I'll call it a day there because it's Friday evening and I really want a beer. this isn't a gesture continuation, but one thing I will say is one of my, I say don't trust anyone when they say, hey, I'm a good artist. Here's my tips. Immediately think, hang on, are you actually a good artist, or are you just saying that and you're good at presenting yourself? Um, the reason that I mention it is because I think almost anything that feels really satisfying and ends up in a nice looking result is probably, as a rule, not a great way to learn. Um, so yeah, when you do drawings like this, these are the drawings that make you learn. The really rough stuff where it's about the idea and you're processing something and you're changing your understanding. When someone goes, oh, look at this beautiful gesture of this guy, and the outcome of that process is the drawing, and you're supposed to say, oh, that's a great outcome, so therefore you must know what you're talking about. But it's possible to make something that looks really pretty, but really not really understand why it's good, or even that it might not be as good as you think it is. Um, so yeah, I'm saying don't trust people on the internet or even people in life if just because they say it's good. And also think about what the output is. Is the output the mental process that's going on in here, or is it the thinking and learning, or is the output um like, here's a nice drawing and I could show you how to do a nice drawing too. If it feels really easy and satisfying to do, probably not that good for learning. That's my slightly grumpy conclusion. Obviously, the flip side of that is you shouldn't just suffer. Just because something feels like a struggle and a bit of suffering doesn't also mean it's good for learning. You have to find something in the middle. So how long have you been drawing? Your form and line and form looks good. Thank you. I've been drawing 17 years with lots and lots of gaps. I went and worked on a super yacht. I did loads of different jobs. Um, but yeah, drawing since 17 years ago when I was 21. No, I don't think Kim Jong-gi did gestures at all. At least I've never seen one, and I would just be very surprised based on what he said, um, if he ever did. Doesn't all this depend on what your goals are? Yeah, that's what I've been saying. For sure. If your goal is to do nice gesture drawings, I think doing gestures is really good. But if your goals are to do the sort of stuff that I'm doing, like drawing things from your imagination or with minimal reference, then I think gesture drawing is basically useless. I am people on the internet. Yeah, don't trust me. Don't trust people telling you not to trust people on the internet, for sure. All right, okay. I'm going to wrap it up in 5 minutes then, guys. Any last questions? I'll wait and answer those, and then I'll head off because I think I've done enough hands I've done like hundreds of hands today. Some people want to be a great figure drawer, so gesture drawing is a great way to efficiently draw figures. You're trying to bait me into an argument about figure drawing. I'm not taking the bait. No way. Not on Friday evening. Uh, let's agree to disagree. I don't think people who are good at figure drawing do lots of gestures, but I'm sure that there are always exceptions to the rule. Action Man, when you'll be back? I'm back. And normally stream once a week. I might start doing some member streams as well, like extra ones. And the streams are archived, but only the members can watch the archives. So what I do is, I'm trying to be fair to everyone. I do the live stream. I schedule it a day or two in advance so people have a bit of warning, and then I leave it up for like 10 days so that anyone who missed it who really wants to watch it has the chance to watch it and like catch up. And then I archive them and put them in the members archive. It's like $3, I think. Um, and yeah, then they can watch them all forever, basically. Just as a way of like basically supporting the channel and like keeping me at least making £10 or whatever it is from doing these lives, because obviously I have to stop work to do them. And also helps me make more YouTube videos, which is great. What's for breakfast, lunch, dinner? Oh, God, I don't know. I'm pretty simple with what I eat these days. If I eat loads of sugar, my like concentration is all over the place. So and I have eaten loads of sugar for years, but these days I've cut that right down, and it does help. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it does. Can you explain a bit more how you jump the gun and do YouTube? What do you mean jump the gun? Just to explain that. Take the bait, goat milk. Yeah, exactly. I'm not just going to have a go at someone on the internet. All they can respond is a delayed chat, and I can go on a massive rant. So it's not fair, is it? It would have to be an official gesture duel where I meet them in person and we argue publicly. I just don't know if they can be bothered or I can be bothered. All right, know when to stop. I'm just doodling now. This is not helping the course, so I'll leave it there. Do you think your process is mostly useful for people who want to do direct drawing? Uh, I think what I teach is probably one of the best ways to learn to draw directly. But I think the concepts and the ideas behind what I'm saying, particularly just explanations of things like perspective and anatomy, I think they're just good learning strategies. I think you can apply them to non-direct drawing as well. And I did for years because I worked, when I was working, I wasn't doing much direct drawing. It's a specific skill that I'm trying to train, but yeah, anyone can kind of improve at it. So no, I don't think my advice is tailored to that. What's the best way to learn anatomy so I can draw with imagination? We'll have to go through that in the next stream because that's a big one. I'm going to go against gesture drawing folks. Yeah, for sure. Michael Matesi. I actually don't know who that is. Um, it's probably a good thing by the sounds of it. If it sounds like I would love the gesture duel, but it has to be on a super long table and each sitting in one corner so they barely hear each other. I want to learn some cartoonish type sketching, but I'm such a stupid with no discipline. That's not true. You're not stupid. And I'm sure you have discipline. Everyone has discipline. You just got to bring it out and practice it. Get yourself on a schedule, a very easy schedule that's very sustainable and achievable. I think if you can draw for half an hour every day or half an hour a day, let's say, almost every day for like 5 years, you'll be quite good at drawing, because it's more a big part of drawing is like going to the gym, like at learning anything. The rest is actually just as important as the doing of the thing. And you need lots and lots of sleeps essentially for your brain to make sense of things. So make a schedule, stick to it, and make it really easy and sustainable. Okay, let me just check. 53 people watching, amazing. The objective is to learn how to draw from imagination. The gesture folks can go to other YouTube videos. Exactly. Well said. They can get out of here. Xanatia, yeah. Right. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go with that end of that rant. Thank you so much for joining me. That was a real pleasure. Good questions. And I think I learned loads. I don't know. I hope other people learned something too. I created a series of app for artists and drawers in the world, like Adobe. Don't say they're about gesture. If they are, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. It has its place. Everything has its place. That's the beauty of drawing, isn't it? There's something for everyone, and it actually doesn't matter what other people are doing. You just focus on what you're doing. Anyway, pleasure everyone, and I'll catch you soon. I'll see you in a week.